Let's call this the NIO weekend recap. This is the last weekend of the year in 2024, and there's so much more to cover than we can possibly get into. But you know what? I've got some things lined up, so let's talk about a few of them. This month of December is when NIO really wanted to push forward and try to have a monthly delivery goal for Onvo, its first sub-brand of 10,000 vehicles. And this is a tweet from December 15th of William Lee essentially saying, hey, we shouldn't have a problem getting to our 30,000 monthly delivery goal. And of course, the 10,000 Onvo, in a recent video I highlighted, it looks like we're already past that point, that NIO and Onvo have already surpassed it. So let's see, we'll get a little validation, a little teaser on Tuesday with the insurance registration data. And then I'm expecting a new monthly, quarterly, and yearly record to be reported on the first to start the new year 2025. So let's see how that goes and just how far in they will come. And I'm talking about NIO with their guidance. This is one of the things I thought was funny. Again, this was posted December 15th, but it was about the 10th through the 12th of the month in December when the noise seemed at its loudest with folks complaining and suggesting that NIO was not going to make their guidance, that they were not going to get there with the ramp of Onvo. And so I thought that was kind of an interesting point. But we've been tracking stuff on the channel, and I really haven't been worried about it. It's just going to be fun to see NIO come in and surprise. I'm hoping they can even get to the high end of their guidance for the fourth quarter, but I just don't know. We'll see how that plays out. This, again, a nod to what's happening as of Sunday, December 29th, with deliveries ongoing here into the end of the month and to finish out the year of 2024. We see here the demand is very high for Onvo in the L60. In fact, I'll say this, the one thing, I won't say it's a concern, but the one thing that I'm wondering is if Onvo is in such demand in China, if that's going to slow the global expansion for that brand. And that's also why I'm thinking Firefly might be the brand. And of course, that's the newest sub-brand that will start deliveries in 2025. That might be the one that really is positioned to put NIO on the map globally and raise a lot of awareness across all the brands that NIO has. I don't want to stop there. Let's keep it moving. This is the ET9. The word is there have already been several thousand of these sold. NIO will never come out and announce their pre-order numbers. They keep very tight on those things, and I like that. I have no problem with that. But that means, yes, we have to speculate, and the rumor mill does sort of circulate different things. So one of the markets I'm curious about is the Middle East and the UAE. And as we see the slow expansion of NIO down there, I'm wondering how many ET9s are going to be sold, and delivered down in that area, that region. I believe that Tesla does about 2,000, a little over 2,000 per month in sales in the UAE. So there is a market there. We'll see what that ends up looking like and how fast that maybe takes shape. Also, I'm wondering if NIO is going to use some positioning from that region, that area, to do expansion so that they can do manufacturing from there and avoid or lessen some of the tariffs globally. That's just in my mind. Again, there's just so much going on, and that we will have to try and continue to track here into 2025 and beyond. This is Firefly. And I wanted to highlight this because I think one of the advantages of this brand is whether people say they hate the way it looks or love the way it looks, or maybe I've seen people say initially they didn't like it and now they do. I think the point of this brand is partially the awareness, to raise awareness. And the more eyes are on it, the more people see it, they're going to say, what is that? Well, who puts that out? And this is not going to be a cheap vehicle. It will be an affordable vehicle, but NIO does not do cheap. So although we don't have the battery as a service price, which allows the buyer to potentially save $5,000 to even $10,000 US, let's say, on the price point, we know that it starts without the battery as a service option at about $20,000 US. Now, what we saw with Onvo and the L60 is they offered it without battery as a service for about $30,000 US, and then they dropped it with battery as a service to about $21,000. So if we're starting here at the $20,000 US price point or range, how low can they go? 5,000 less, maybe even closer to 10. I have no idea if that is feasible or possible, but this could be the big volume driver. And because of the affordable optionality that battery as a service provides, it could be the key to unlocking global market expansion for NIO across all their brands. But there is an asterisk, and this is again me thinking ahead here. How do things look with the battery swap infrastructure build out, the power swap station, that build out, the infrastructure has to be there if you're going to offer the battery as a service and allow people the choice of renting the battery as opposed to buying the battery. If that's the case, then I kind of give a nod to whatever regions, countries have already sort of worked with NIO and allowed them to do power swap stations. That way, even if NIO ends up doing a different type of power swap station or battery swap for this brand, they should still be able to work within the rules, regulations, and the regulatory side of things that matters with respect to the speed of infrastructure build out. So that's kind of in my mind as well, heading into 2025. Also, if you haven't seen it, these maps are kind of cool to check out. So we've got, if we look back at about the 6-year build out of NIO Power, and with the charging infrastructure and the power swap stations, the battery swap stations, especially in China, I believe that NIO has the most extensive charging network in China. And by end of year, their goal was to have 3,000 swap stations out. And they are doing, see if I have yes, I do. I've got a tab for that. They are doing about 20, 15, 10. This is on the daily side of things. This is how many they are getting put into place and operational. So I do think they'll get the 3,000. The 5,000 number is their goal for NIO or by the end of 2025. Now, how many, if they end up being different, how many are going to be Firefly? How many are going to be, domestic within China? How many are going to be abroad? I have no idea. These are, again, some of the things to watch. But back to this one, this is, if we go back in time, it took NIO and William Li, who I consider to be a visionary, and this guy sees things way out into the future that few of us are yet seeing or recognizing. But one of the things that he had a vision for was upgradeable, swappable battery technology. He said it took him over 6 years to get to the point where that became a reality. And that was in the fall of 2020 when he talked about that. I remember it because I thought, wow, this is important. And I'm not sure what it means for the long-term big picture. Again, he's way ahead of us on this, but I knew that it meant something. So now here we are, over 60 million battery swaps, and they are going faster and faster, especially as the power swap station infrastructure build out continues. This will continue to be the case. And with more sub-brands and more sales coming across all the different price markets and segments, that also will translate into more swapping. So how does that look in the future? And at what point does NIO start sharing profits from things like that? Just kind of a fun fact, Will, China Driven, had talked about this. And I believe, in fact, in his video for Onvo, I think it was, he actually clocked a 2-minute and 30-second roughly battery swap time. And now here he is again talking about, so he has seen this happen. I'm wondering about this. Can NIO, with its existing power swap stations, can it get them to go even faster in the future? Is this something that NIO users and Onvo users and perhaps Firefly users will see moving forward? And in fact, with Firefly, I did a video on that, which I should probably link now in case you didn't see it, where I talked about some of the different ways I could potentially see Firefly and swap stations and maybe partnerships or things look like in China and abroad. I think there are about 4 different ways that I could see sort of different partnerships or things unfold with that, or NIO do things on their own. But clearly at this point, NIO, if they're able to do 10 to 25 or more in a single day, they have it down to a science where they can put those things out fast. So with Firefly deliveries starting later, maybe mid-year-ish of 2025, I think I might have seen them talking about April, perhaps. But I was kind of being conservative and saying, well, let's just plan on second half of the year. That does give them a few months to build things out if they in fact do it that way. Also with the ET9s, I believe those are going to start deliveries in March. And the goal for Onvo with that sub-brand continuing to work on its production and delivery ramp, the goal is 20,000 deliveries in March. So I'm wondering, are shorts going to get out of the way before March? And if we see money flow back into Chinese stocks as early as late January or mid-January, when is this going to become obvious? I'll keep talking about it because the short-term stock price action does matter. I think we'll get some FTD data updated, and those 3 short-term indicators are on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. I will keep it there until I think we're in a very clear uptrend with NIO stock. And I think there's an excellent chance we're going to see that in 2025. But I want to hear from you. So drop it in the comments about anything that I shared here in the video. Have a great day or night whenever you see this, and I'll be back with more content before you know it.